I'm Tama Wagner, the director of the St. Joseph Community Alliance, and this is the Imagine St. Joseph 2040 podcast. Joining me today is Kim Schutte. Kim is the Director of Historic Preservation for the City of St. Joseph, and I think maybe I've messed up that title, so we'll let Kim correct us. But Kim and I are working together on an initiative to attempt to get a Department of Economic Development ARPA grant to develop a project that we've called the Riverbluff Gateway Project. So we're going to talk about that project, but first I'm going to have Kim set the record straight on what exactly her title is. Kim?
All right, my title is Historic Preservation Planner for the City of St. Joseph.
Okay, well, you should be the director. I guess who do I call and tell that? Anyway, so as I said, you and I are working together on the DED ARPA grant. We have been at this now 4 or 5 months.
It has been, hasn't it? 5 months, I think.
So we knew that the state was releasing about $320 million in ARPA funding. And for those of you who are not familiar, ARPA is the American Rescue Plan Act. It's from the federal government, in which they allocated millions and millions and millions of dollars back to the states, local governments, state governments, to help with COVID recovery. So the state of Missouri has divided its ARPA funds among multiple categories. And the one Kim and I are going to talk about today is neighborhood revitalization. So Kim, why don't you give us the broad view of the project that we plan to submit to the state?
Sure. The Riverbluff Gateway Project is a project that targets neighborhood or community revitalization across the length, really, of St. Joseph, starting in the south side, kind of centered around King Hill Avenue and neighborhoods around Carnegie Library, moving up the 6th Street corridor to connect into downtown, and then on up 6th Street into the north side, areas around St. Joseph Avenue, and especially the Washington Park Library. And so the idea is to create for St. Joseph, in a way, a better gateway, a better entry into the city, with particular attention toward the people coming in to visit the new biking and hiking trails up in the bluffs, but also just in the neighborhoods overall. And so looking at structural rehabilitation, green space revitalization, and those kinds of projects to create a more appealing environment along that area.
It's a great project from the Imagine 2040's point of view, because it does a couple of things. So in the 2021 community survey, community appearance ranks in the top 4 priorities that residents said these are the things we need to focus on as a community to improve. And so it addresses community appearance along that gateway from King Hill to St. Joseph Avenue with green space and other developments. Plus, we kind of follow the philosophy of how do you create a quality place? And one of those goals in creating a quality place is to develop natural amenities. And so the Riverbluff bike trails fit that bill. And so improving the gateway to lead to those as a tourism attraction is really critical. And so that's why the Community Alliance is so involved in this and very supportive of the project. The city is the project lead, but the Community Alliance is a partner. InterServe is a partner in this, because there's also a component for managing some homelessness. And why did we decide, or why are we including that in this application?
Well, homelessness is another one of those issues that the community often points to as being a particular problem or a particular challenge for St. Joseph. A lot of the homelessness, the existing infrastructure around homelessness is along the 6th Street corridor, so it's a natural fit for this project. And I think of the Gateway Project really as giving people something to be proud of creating a sense of communities, creating a sense of identity. And I think that helping in a respectful, thoughtful way to deal with, to ameliorate in a way, the homelessness issue, I think is an important part of that. You can't just pretend that they're not there. And they, like all the rest of us, deserve good, decent, nice places to be. And I think it fits with the whole project.
Yeah, and the grant application actually speaks to that specifically and says, I'm paraphrasing the language here, but pay special attention to the homeless and people who are disproportionately affected by the lack of housing. And so working to address both of those issues with our partner InterServe in that capacity. So what is the timeline if we're successful and we're asking for 2.5 million, we're matching it with 2.5 million. If we receive the grant, what's the timeline for implementation and what would folks begin to see?
Right now, the way that we're thinking about implementation is that if we are successful in getting the grant, we'll know that right at the first of 2023. And so I think that it's very important that we take the first 6 months or so to really plan the implementation. $2.5 million is a lot of money, but it is not, in another way, a lot of money. And so to make sure that we use it in the best way possible, perhaps finding projects where it can be the seed money for other grant applications, identifying other groups besides InterServe, other groups to partner with, so that we can really get the most bang for our buck, if you will. I think that first 6 months of planning is going to be key. And I think that we need to take that breath and to plan that really well, which would take us right into summer. And I think in the next year and a half or so, we would be able to see pretty much the entire project push through. And so in that first year, we would see the homelessness initiative begun, at least, the cold weather shelter be in place, and that planning, but also green spaces along the entire corridor identified and beginning to see the improvements there, new signage, and then some structural rehabilitation as well. And those will be spread across the entire project area and done sort of in a systematic way, probably in 3 or 4 phases at about 6-month intervals.
Mm-hmm. So you and I spend a lot of time together talking about how to create a better place. You specifically on historic preservation, me more, how do you clean up urban neighborhoods and how do you return houses to productive value? But the missing component in all of that is we can have all of the great plans. We have a great placemaking plan for Cathedral Hill. The Imagine 2040 speaks to create a better place, but it is impossible to get those things done without money. Exactly. And so that's why this grant is so important to at least kickstart a little bit of this project. And so if businesses or residents who are along this gateway have projects, who do they call or what do they do at this point?
Right now, I'm already talking to some people. I've got several files of projects, ideas that people have, and love to talk to people so they can contact me at the city, and we start to have that conversation. And like I said, the idea is I've got all these files with all these ideas. And we'll sit down in that first 6 months and really figure out how we do this and how we do this well, so that this money, because as you said, the eternal problem is having the money to do the projects. Hopefully, when we do this successfully, we will show that a modest investment, and 2.5 million again is a fairly modest investment. A modest investment can have a big payoff if you do it thoughtfully and with a plan and with an eye to the future. And so hopefully we'll show that that can be done, and that other funding sources will see that, and that this will be the beginning. So if people have ideas, and as I talk to people, I always say, dream big. Give us your big ideas. Give us all this stuff. We may not be able to do the whole thing, but if you don't tell us the idea, we can't include it.
Exactly.
And it's always fun to talk to people with exciting ideas.
So why do you think projects like this are important?
I think they're important for a couple of reasons. I mean, there's the practical money to fix green spaces and things like that. But I think that's maybe almost secondary. I think, as you and I talk about community revitalization and fixing neighborhoods and all of those things, I think it really comes down to giving people a sense of place, a pride of place, being proud of St. Joseph, being proud of where you live, and believing that great, cool, interesting things can be done here. And I think that's where if it can change that mindset and inculcate among all kinds of people, including kids, this is a cool place, and this is a place where ideas can thrive and you can do some interesting stuff. I think that's our big investment in the future.
Well, thank you, Kim. I think we'll end on that. That was a very appropriate setting. So thank you for joining us on this podcast. Remember, the Imagine 2040 calls on us to create a better place because, as Kim said, St. Joseph is worth it. Thanks for joining us. Next time.